How is it that we're talking about the lie, the alleged lie that Minister Mkhwanazi told the police portfolio regarding his relationship with Brown? But the National Commissioner could lie about the brigadier that they brought from BMW. How is this okay? Why are we targeting certain people as Parliament? We are eulogizing General Mkhwanazi. I, as the complainant in the charges against those 7 generals, when this portfolio called me a madman before they were arrested, I, as the complainant, am connecting the dots. That staged press conference with a general who now seeks additional protection, who had what looked like an armed militia behind him, it was a threat to this country. Let us call it what it is. He was trying to incite policemen to take action in the event of whatever it is that he knew was coming. Let me tell this committee what I suspect was coming. As the accounting officer for the South African Police Services, I suspect that the National Commissioner himself is up for arrest. And that press conference was nothing more than a preemptive move. And the country appears to have fallen for it. General Mkhwanazi must appear before this committee. The National Commissioner must appear before this committee. The IDAC must appear before this committee. General Khumalo, General Lushabo must come and sit in front of this committee. And I want to appeal and actually ask that we make it a recommendation that every member of this committee that has ever met with any law enforcement or investigative body or given them a statement or had a conversation must come clean and tell us what he said. I will be the first. I know Honorable James has had that conversation. I have a suspicion there are a few more other people that are hiding things within this committee. Now, in order to clean out the service, we must all be honest. We can't demand accountability from the boys in blue and hide things right here.
We pick up that is involved in that criminal investigation we are conducting. Once we see that picture, then in this case, the picture that we see that seems to undermine the administration of justice in the Republic, it is for that reason that we then are in this date here before the Commission to try and explain the picture that we've been seeing, so that one doesn't wonder or question, why do we jump to that specific politician? It is due to this analysis and investigation that we are conducting that brings us to these individuals, so that we can flag and see for the Commission to assist us whether our conclusion is justified or not. But we are convinced that it is justified, that what we are presenting. So Mr. Adams appeared to have came into the position of an intelligence information. And this information is classified on its nature that Mr. Adams should not be in possession of. So it is an information that is intended for another structure of Parliament. If it comes to his position and as a lawmaker, as a person who is serving in Parliament, he ought to know that when I'm in possession of information from crime intelligence that is classified, it must be handed over to the Joint Standing Committee of Intelligence so that it can be interrogated, regardless of the status of that information. So that is expectation that one has towards a lawmaker, such as Mr. Fadiel Adams, who is currently serving in Parliament. Because this classified information we are referring to here, it's involving personal information of individuals that is deposited at crime intelligence or extracted by crime intelligence when the crime intelligence is conducting the vetting process for security clearance for individuals. It's a very sensitive information because it digs deeper to your personal information, your relatives, your criminal records, and everything that the state wants to test in order to confirm whether you qualify to be given a security clearance certificate or not. Such a clearance will then allow you to be in possession of sensitive material. The same applies to the members of the Joint Standing Committee in Parliament. It is only those members of Joint Standing Committee in Parliament that are vetted and their information is in the disposal of this intelligence structure. And once they pass that vetting, certificates are issued to them. And that is the entry for those politicians to become members of the Joint Standing Committee. It is not open for everyone. So Mr. Adam, unfortunately, does not serve in the Joint Standing Committee. I do not know what is the reason that he's not part of the Joint Standing Committee. Perhaps that he might be able to answer himself. But in this regard, we know that he serves in the Portfolio Committee of Police, which is an oversight structure of government, and he's there as a public representative that holds us accountable on how we perform our function as a police on an open account of this that is allocated to the South African Police Service. But on the use of any funds on the secret account, the accounting role for that is within the Joint Standing Committee of Intelligence as regulated by the National Strategic Act of Intelligence that regulates how matters of state secrets must be handled, including the budget, resources, and otherwise. So Mr. Adam is not part of it, but recklessly he handles intelligence information not only within Parliament, but he takes it out to the public.
Understanding your concern then, and you pointed out that he does not sit on the Intelligence Committee within Parliament.
May I ask this of you, Ms. Sillo? To what term of reference does this testimony relate?
It relates to the second part of what he'll be dealing with, which speaks to the concern about, it's basically access to unauthorized information, and as a parliamentarian, dealing with that information in a manner inconsistent with the position he holds. But then it leads to the second aspect at 166.2, which is the use of that same information to abuse his seeming influence on the police structures at the highest echelons. That will then lead to, quote unquote, triggering a process through the Minister of Police to take certain steps that the general believes it's abuse of office and it interferes with the workings of the police. The chair will recall that when General Mkhwanazi started and explaining the various arms of government, of the police, he referenced crime intelligence, which though is located within the police, it is regulated in terms of the Intelligence Act. And it is the abuse he believes is perpetrated by some people.
Maybe let's leave it.
Okay.
Perhaps at some stage, whether it's when you make submissions
Indeed.
or after all the evidence has been laid, we will see how the strings will be pulled together.
I'm
Maybe
happy
let's
with
leave
that
it.
approach.
But I've raised the question.
Yes,
yeah.
it's noted, Chair. My question to you, General, was how then would you suggest this specific parliamentarian ought to have dealt with that information?
Well, as a parliamentarian who is a lawmaker, it's a person that's supposed to know the law. The National Intelligence Act is the law that lawmakers must know and comply with. It would be expected that he knows that this information, it's an information that's supposed to be deposited to a different structure or an oversight body of Parliament, and so that it can be handled with sensitivity that it deserves. But unfortunately, he did not do that.
And from paragraph 173 onwards, you deal with how you say Mr. Adams actually dealt with that information. Can you take us through that?
Commissioners, as I'm outlining again here, I've said when I started, we investigate the picture emerged that calls for further investigation. So this commission is here to help us answer the question of how involved are the politicians and other private people, including police officers, how are they involved in interrupting the work of the security cluster in administering this criminal justice system. This is but one that you're going to see at the end, how Mr. Adams' action is impacting to the work that the team is doing. And again, posed to say this with respect, I had indicated that when we're discussing in length, we're talking about the political killings task team. We mentioned that Khumalo is the project manager there. Khumalo, who's a divisional commissioner of crime intelligence. We presented that Khumalo at crime intelligence becomes aware about what's happening in Gauteng province, and he registers a case internal within crime intelligence that is running as a project inside crime intelligence that is in charge of. It is that case that links to these high profile, the Mulifes, the Matlalas that get arrested. As we're going to see the picture late, it is an operation within crime intelligence, the GCI ops, not the PKTT. These actions that follows from there onward, how they're going to link to the work of that GCI ops. That's a picture we're going to show you towards the end, commissioners. So, but what we know here is that we're tracing steps back as when an incident happens. We go back and we ask, we investigate, what led into this, going backward. So, although we are explaining it here where it started, but not how we investigated. We investigated by starting at the result of something, and we backtrack to establish, like a crime scene. We're going to come to court and say, so-and-so killed that person. But we start by attending the crime scene. We collect evidence, we track back everything until we find the reasons. Then we say, this is a suspect who conducted this crime. So this is exactly what we are doing now. We are telling you who did what, which eventually will result into the interruption of the criminal justice system, which this commission is assisting us to investigate. So, Mr. Adams, on the 29th of October in 2024, he went to Cape Town police station and he opened 3 cases. And these cases, I'm going to invite you, should be public record, to even look at what is contained on his complaint. It does not even warrant the registration of a case. There's no elements of crime on his complaint. But nonetheless, he opened the complaint. And the complaint is really about the vetting procedures within crime intelligence, a space that he ought not to play in. So he takes this sensitive information and he goes to the police station, and he goes and opens a case at the police station, which therefore means he has access to the records within crime intelligence of the secret information that he should not be in possession of. But he takes that information, he goes to a police station, he opens the case about that. And this information, as I said, the vetting procedures of the South African Police Service, where the allegations that the police is manipulating systems within the vetting process. This is a person that, as said, Commissioner, is not within the Joint Standing Committee of Intelligence in Parliament. He's in an open committee. But he speaks, he opens a criminal case about the matters of crime intelligence. Mr. Adams further claims that there's an abuse of the secret fund account. He does not have an oversight. He doesn't even know the budget allocated because he's not part of that committee. But he claims here that there's an abuse of the secret fund account at crime intelligence. So his accusation, his claims, allegation is that this secret fund account, these funds are being channeled to places where they're not supposed to go, including the procurement of vehicles for a political task team in KwaZulu-Natal. We demonstrated yesterday about the budgetary expenditure and everything from the team, where it comes from. But he claims here that this money from the secret fund account is used to purchase vehicles of the political task team. Surely, as a complainant, you will provide proof for this. I'd like to believe that as a complainant, you should be able to demonstrate that here's an evidence that this money was spent here for this resource. He further claims on his complaint, commissioners, that this political task team is a private entity that provides service to the former Minister of Police, Bheki Cele. That's what he puts on the documents, on the A1 statement that he deposited at the police station. He accused that the team is basically an armed force of Gerald Cele. That's his accusation. And the other case that he opens, commissioners, is that he raises concern or is challenging the appointment of one Ms. Mokwele, who was appointed as a technical support service at the Crime Intelligence Division. So he claims that this appointment was irregular and it should not have happened. So these cases are registered on the 29th of October in Cape Town. 29 October 2024 in Cape Town. 2 days later, commissioners, on the 31st of October, Mr. Adams, he raised the same complaint and he lays the same charges, exactly identical, at Orlando Police Station in Johannesburg. 2 days later, 29 and 31, and these are records on our case files in the police we have. They can be obtained by the commission if you so wish. He complains that he raised these complaints to Gauteng, and they are registered on the 31st. 3 cases are registered in Orlando Police Station. 29, 31st. On the 1st of November, Mr. Adams sends an email directly to the Minister of Police, Mr. Senzo Mkhwanazi. He is complaining to the minister, and his complaint says that there are efforts to undermine investigation related to these cases, and therefore is requesting the minister to intervene. His email is attached as a reference that he sent to the Minister of Police.
General, if I may assist, that email you reference at paragraph 176 of your statement, and that is MK 14, starting at page 265.
That's correct.
Thank you. You may proceed.
So these are the timelines that I'm putting it before the commission. That 29 October, 3 cases in Cape Town. 2 days later, 31st of October, 3 cases, similar complaint in Orlando and Johannesburg, some 1,500 kilometers or apart. A day later, a complaint to the minister that the 2 cases or the 2 provinces where he registered cases, there's some efforts to undermine investigations. So he's got evidence that there's an effort to undermine investigation on both of these provinces. That's why he then sends a complaint to the Minister of Police. So it is interesting indeed to know that this claim that Mr. Adams presented in Cape Town, he claims on his email that he knows that there was an interception of the investigation and the docket had been intercepted. So I really don't know what does that mean? That you register a case in one instance, Commissioner, a complaint is a statement is deposited at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. the case is registered at 8 o'clock in the evening. But 2 days later, he claims an interception. Perhaps even by the time he claims, that docket has not even been allocated to the investigating officer. But he is already moving to another province to complain about that. So this is what he puts in a complaint to the minister, that there's interception of the docket in Cape Town, and he further claimed that he had been notified that the Gauteng Police Department had followed the same modus operandi as the Western Cape Provincial Commissioner and is interfering in the investigation process. So this is one man, a member of parliament, that is convinced that within the period he's opened the case, there's an interference already. And he leaves the one province, he goes to another one, he opens a case, 24 hours later he reaches a complaint that they are following the same modus operandi as Cape Town. So how we concluded to this, I really don't know. Perhaps he will be invited here to come and explain why he reached this conclusion. But as we investigate, commissioners, you're going to pick up some linkages of his involvement in this work that the team are doing in uncovering the criminal syndicates within the police. So this is the build-up to such. That's why we are focusing on this. This complaint, upon landing at the minister's office, first he sends an email to the minister, and after that follows another emails to the chief of staff of the minister of police and other people that he copied the emails to. But the first one was directly to the minister of police. Subsequent to that, the minister's office directed this complaint to the office of the National Commissioner. This is a complaint that comes on the 1st of November. The National Commissioner directs the minister's office directs this to the National Commissioner's office, and they request the National Commissioner to respond by the latest, the 4th, which is 3 days later. They must give a response into these allegations of Mr. Adams. The National Commissioner's office acted on that complaint by directing a division in the police that is responsible for dealing with complaints, which is a division inspectorate. The report from the divisional commissioner, Lieutenant General Jacobs, is attached and marked MK15 in this regard. This General Jacobs and the team, upon receiving this complaint, they acted upon by trying to reach out to the complainant, Mr. Adams. They were not successful in trying to get him to come and elaborate on this complaint. And they read through the complaints and the dockets that he has registered at the 2 different provinces. They could not find anything that justified his complaint to say there was an interference with the investigation. And as a result, in their conclusion, General Jacobs, which he summarized in the report that he sent to the National Commissioner, of which the National Commissioner responded to the minister, was that the complaint of Mr. Adams was premature, and the police should be allowed to first investigate this matter, and upon the investigation, and maybe the further analysis can be done whether there is any interference or not. But the biggest problem on this is the fact that the complainant himself does not avail himself when he's contacted by the people who are now investigating his complaint. He does not avail himself to be engaged in order to form the basis of his complaint in this matter. This email from the Chief of Staff to the National Commissioner's office reads, and I want to quote it on record. Good morning, Major General Sebola. As I said, Sebola is at the office of the National Commissioner. But the Chief of Staff says, the ministry has received this complaint from the Member of Parliament. In order for the ministry to respond accordingly, please finish this office with a report in responding to this complaint and the details of the investigating officer who was assigned to investigate these cases. Your report is expected on Monday, the 4th of November at 1500 hours. So this is the timelines that are given by the Chief of Staff, who says the ministry. I'd like to believe perhaps the Chief of Staff will have received directive from his boss, which is a minister in this regard. But then we come back into what we're talking about, then becomes strange that after the 4th of November, timeline has been met by inspectorate, although the minister received it on the 5th. The very same Chief of Staff then writes a letter under the minister's signature, heading ministry, cover letter, and he sends this thing to IDEC.
Now, you referenced the report from the inspectorate dated the 4th of November. And we understand from that report that a request for an extension was, there was a request for an extension, correct?
That's correct.
And then you say the Chief of Staff directed a request for investigation to IDEC on the 8th of November.
The 11th.
On the 11th of November, I
11th.
apologize. If I could refer you to Annexure MK15, it's part of that pack. I see there at page 289 a further report, and this is dated the 20th of November 2024. It's signed by General Jacobs PA on his behalf. Do you see that?
Yes, yes, Commissioners.
I would like you to, it would appear that this report is in response to the complaint originally received, specifically regarding the Cape Town files and the Orlando files. That's captured at 2.1.1 and 2.1.2. And 2.2, they deal with the inspectorate deals with the instruction received from the National Commissioner. I would like you to have regard and read into the record the conclusion drawn at 2.2.1.
The 2.2.1 of the information note
Yes.
that is annexed on 289.
That's correct.
2.2.1, you said?
2.2.1.
Yeah, a report was compiled wherein the allegations that there was interference from both the provincial offices were reported to be unfounded.
And this was in relation to the question the chairperson posed to you about what interference was being referenced. And am I reading the document correctly that General Jacobs, by the 20th of November, had concluded that the allegation of interference was unfounded?
That's correct.
Now, just to close on that, if I refer you to, in the same document, to page 290, it's item 3.3, if you could read that into the...
As part of the protocols to address service complaints, an affidavit is obtained from the complainant. Colonel Phillips of this office was tasked to obtain the affidavit. However, after numerous attempts, it seems as if the complainant is evading the request. Please find Colonel Phillips' affidavit as proof hereof.
Now, am I correct in understanding that the conclusion is in part based on the fact that the inspectorate could not obtain an affidavit as required from the complainant to substantiate the claim?
That is correct.
At paragraph 180, you have dealt with this letter already, that the Chief of Staff refers the same complaint to IDEC. Do you know the status of that complaint within IDEC as we speak?
I'm not privy to the status of the complaint since the dockets were taken to IDEC.
Okay.
They operate outside the police.
And there, as far as you know, there have been no engagements. Do you know whether or not there have been any engagements with the police from the affected police stations, which is Cape Town and Orlando, in respect of these case numbers?
What I am privy to, Commissioners, is that Gerald Jacobs' office, after receiving this docket as part of the investigation, they were approached by IDEC requesting that they hand over those case dockets of Gauteng in the main, and Gerald Jacobs refused to hand over the dockets. And they then, IDEC, wrote to a head of crime detection in the police, it is Lieutenant General Sentumule. They wrote to her requesting the dockets. And she then contacted Gerald Jacobs and asked Gerald Jacobs to release the dockets to IDEC. Now, IDEC is led by an individual, and it is an entity of the NPA as a prosecution. The inspectorate, the detective services is led by individuals, which is part of the South African Police Service as a department which is led by the National Commissioner. But the correspondence from the NPA to the police does not include the people in charge of the two entities. It includes the head of IDEC and the head of investigation. So the correspondence between the two and the authority is granted by the police detectives and instructing inspectorate to release the docket, and then dockets were then taken by IDEC. To date, those dockets are sitting with IDEC.
I see in your state.
I'm just surprised that there would have been this much effort, this much laborious activity, all of it stemming from a non-complaint by Adams MP. I mean, with that one-liner in respect of the one category of dockets, and then another one-liner in respect of the second category of dockets, and then there's this much activity and effort. In fact, it just does not make sense that the Inspectorate of Subs should have been required to even give a report. Of course, I'm just expressing a view based purely on the fact that what initiated all of this was a non-complaint. It's totally not substantiated. So what the Chief of Staff, or what he refers to as the ministry, what they should have done was to go back to Adams MP and ask for specificity before all of this laborious activity was then engaged in. Do you want to comment on that, General?
Commissioner, my comment might be to some degree perhaps being biased, because I'm the one that is combing through all what is happening. Perhaps I must indicate to the Commissioner that what led us to able to comb through all this what has transpired is in two phases. One is information I get through my sources within IDEC that there is activities that are happening with IDEC that are not in line with what the purpose of the formation of the entity is. And that there are two structures within IDEC. There's a good structure that deals with the Zondo Commission, and there's another structure that is malicious, that is used as a weapon to further disrupt the criminal justice system operations. So I get that through my sources within IDEC. That's on one. That's how I was able to get this letter. It's not a letter that was given to me on request from the Chief of Staff. No, I got it through the sources. And the chief of staff cannot deny it, or the minister cannot deny it, because it's got his signature, it's a legitimate letter. IDEC has that because they called for the docket informed by this letter, so they can't deny the letter. It's a picture that we started picking up. That is on one side through the information. But secondly, Commissioner, when we see the disruption of the investigation of the Gauteng counterintelligence operations, we then begin to ask ourselves why this is happening. What is much talked about in the media that is not known is the arrest of Gerald Khumalo. So we have this arrest. When this arrest happens, it literally means this project must stop. This investigation of this organized crime must stop immediately because the people are arrested. We start investigating out.
Sorry, what? I hope I've not muted. I hope I've not muted.
No,
you,
I
General.
didn't.
Can we still hear the general, all of us?
Yeah, I can hear
Even
you.
at the back there.